You know that person who freezes when a cat walks into the room? The one who suddenly finds an excuse to leave when someone mentions their pet? Yeah, that person isn't just being dramatic. They're dealing with something real. If you've ever felt your heart race at the sight of whiskers and paws, or if you've pretended to be allergic just to avoid admitting your fear, welcome. You're about to understand yourself better. And today, we're breaking down the psychology of people who are afraid of cats. The fear society laughs at, but science takes seriously. Here's the thing. This fear has a name, Ailurophobia. And it's more common than you think. It's not about hating cats or thinking they're evil. It's about an involuntary response your brain triggers when it perceives a threat. Even if logically you know that fluffy tabby won't hurt you, your nervous system doesn't care about logic. It's already preparing for danger. Psychologists say most phobias start in childhood. Maybe you had a scary encounter. A cat scratched you unexpectedly, hissed when you got too close, or jumped on you while you were sleeping. Your young brain recorded that moment as cats equal danger. And now, even decades later, that fear lives in your body like muscle memory. But here's something interesting. Sometimes the fear isn't about cats at all. It's about what cats represent. Cats are unpredictable. They don't follow commands like dogs. They stare without blinking. They move silently. They do what they want when they want. For people who crave control or predictability, that randomness feels threatening. The cat isn't the problem. It's the lack of control. And let's talk about their eyes. Cat eyes are designed to hunt. Those vertical pupils, the way they track movement, the unblinking stare. To our primal brain, that looks like predator behavior. Even though house cats are small, something deep in our DNA remembers when being watched meant being hunted. So when a cat locks eyes with you, your brain whispers, danger. Now, some people develop this fear not from personal experience, but from observation. Maybe they saw a parent or sibling react with fear around cats. Kids are like sponges. If they see someone they trust acting scared, they learn, this thing is dangerous. The fear gets passed down, not through genetics, but through behavior. Here's where it gets complex. Society treats fear of cats like a joke. Fear of spiders? Understandable. Fear of heights? Totally normal. But fear of cats? People laugh. They call you ridiculous. They bring their cat closer just to see your reaction. And that dismissal makes the fear worse. Because now you're not just afraid of cats. You're ashamed of being afraid. But here's what's wild. Your fear is trying to protect you. Even if it's irrational, even if it's inconvenient, your brain created this response because at some point, it thought it needed to keep you safe. That's not weakness. That's survival instinct doing its job, maybe a little too well. Interestingly, people afraid of cats often describe the same thing, the unpredictability. A dog wags its tail, you know it's happy. A cat purrs, then bites. A cat rubs against you, then scratches. There's no clear communication. And for anxious brains that need to read situations to feel safe, that ambiguity is unbearable. Now let's be real. There's a difference between disliking cats and having a phobia. If you just prefer dogs, that's a preference. But if seeing a cat makes your palms sweat, your heart race, if you avoid visiting friends because they have cats, if you scan rooms when you enter just to make sure there isn't one, that's Ailurophobia. And it's exhausting. Some researchers believe the fear of cats taps into something evolutionary. Small predators, things that move silently and strike without warning, were legitimate threats to early humans. That wariness kept us alive. So maybe your fear isn't irrational at all. Maybe it's just outdated. Your brain is using an ancient alarm system in a modern world. And here's something people don't talk about: sensory sensitivity. Cats are quiet, but their presence is intense. The way they move, the texture of their fur, the sudden sounds they make. For people with sensory processing issues or autism, cats can feel overwhelming. It's not about fear in the traditional sense. It's about sensory overload that feels like danger. Now let's address the trauma piece. Some people's fear comes from a deeper place. Maybe a cat was present during a traumatic event. Maybe the smell, the sound, the sight of a cat brings back a memory their conscious mind has buried. In those cases, the cat becomes a trigger, not the cause. And healing that requires more than just exposure. It requires processing the original wound. But for those who want to overcome this fear, there's hope. Exposure therapy works, but it has to be gradual. You don't start by holding a cat. You start by looking at pictures, then videos, then being in the same room as a calm cat from a distance. You teach your brain, slowly, that the threat it's perceiving isn't real. You rewrite the story. Some people never fully lose the fear, and that's okay too. They learn to manage it. They set boundaries. They communicate their needs. They don't force themselves into situations that make them feel unsafe. Because here's the truth. You don't owe anyone comfort at the expense of your peace. And let's talk about what this fear teaches us. It teaches us that our minds are powerful, that perception shapes reality, that what we fear says something about what we value: control, predictability, safety. Understanding your fear of cats might actually help you understand yourself in ways you didn't expect. Here's something beautiful though. Some people who were once terrified of cats end up becoming cat owners. Not because they forced themselves, but because they worked through the fear and discovered something on the other side: curiosity, connection. Sometimes, the thing we fear the most becomes the thing that heals us. But even if that never happens for you, even if you always feel uncomfortable around cats, that doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. We all have things that trigger us, things that don't make sense to other people. Your fear is valid. Your feelings are real. And you don't have to justify them to anyone. So if you're someone who tenses up when you hear a meow, who checks under beds before sleeping at a friend's house, who's learned to politely decline invitations to cat cafes, you're not ridiculous. You're not overdramatic. You're just wired differently. And that's completely okay. Tell me, do you understand this fear now, whether it's yours or someone else's? And if you want the psychology that most people never hear about themselves, the next video is going to change how you see your own mind. Click it, you'll understand why.